Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the crisp fabric of his collar grazed his skin, Jagger fidgeted, his fingers drumming against the buttons of his pressed blue shirt. Anticipation hung heavy in the air, mingling with his escalating nerves. It was almost time for Aunt Marie's much-awaited family reunion, a yearly tradition that left Jagger feeling inexplicably ill at ease. Lost in thought, he jumped when his mother's familiar voice cut through the silence, sharp as a knife.
"Jagger, darling, would you kindly fetch the fine china from the attic?" "Of course, Mother,"
Jagger responded, grateful for the fleeting respite from his apprehensions. Climbing the ladder to retrieve the boxes, his eyes wandered to the nondescript wooden closet at the back of the hall. Its facade betrayed no hint of the exhilarating secret it held, a dazzling array of heels that offered Jagger sanctuary from the oppressive obligations he faced. Just then, the chime of the doorbell reverberated through the house, vibrating through Jagger's entire being. He hurriedly placed the china on the dining table and smoothed down his khaki pants, taking a deep breath to steel himself for the inevitable onslaught of familial scrutiny. "Jagger, darling, look at you, all grown up!" Aunt Marie's warm voice filled the entryway as she enveloped him in a perfumed embrace. Her brown hair, just a shade lighter than his own, tickled his cheek as she pulled away to examine him at arm's length. "It's good to see you, Aunt Marie," Jagger managed, forcing a smile that he hoped didn't betray his inner turmoil. The next few hours passed in a blur of polite conversation and carefully crafted small talk. Jagger found himself constantly on edge, terrified that somehow, some way, his aunt would discover his secret. Every time she glanced in the direction of the hallway closet, his heart threatened to leap out of his chest. As the afternoon wore on, Jagger's mother suggested he give Aunt Marie a tour of the recent home renovations. With reluctance, he led her through the house, pointing out new paint colors and updated fixtures. The tour concluded at the guest room where Aunt Marie would be staying. "Oh, this is lovely," she remarked, running her hand along the freshly painted wall. "But where should I put my suitcase? Is there a closet I can use?" Jagger's blood ran cold. The guest room closet was full of old coats and boxes. There was no way Aunt Marie's things would fit. With a sinking feeling, he realized there was only one option. "The hall closet has some space," he heard himself say, as if from a great distance. "I can clear out a few things to make room for you." Aunt Marie beamed. "Perfect. Let's go take a look, shall we?" Jagger's feet felt like lead as he followed her to the hallway. His mind raced, desperately trying to remember if he'd left any telltale signs of his secret life visible. As Aunt Marie reached for the doorknob, time seemed to slow to a crawl. The door swung open, and Jagger held his breath. For a moment, everything seemed fine. The coats and boxes obscured most of the closet's contents. But then, as Aunt Marie pushed aside a garment bag, a flash of red caught her eye. "What's this?" she murmured, reaching deeper into the closet. Jagger's heart stopped as she pulled out a pair of vibrant red stilettos, their patent leather gleaming in the hallway light. I... Jagger stammered, his mind blank with panic. He waited for the shock, the disgust, the inevitable rejection. But it never came. Instead, Aunt Marie's eyes lit up with recognition. "Oh my," she breathed, turning the shoe over in her hands. "These are my old Louboutins. I wondered what had happened to them." Jagger blinked, confusion temporarily overriding his fear. Your shoes? Aunt Marie nodded, a wistful smile playing on her lips. From my modeling days. I gave them to your mother years ago, but I thought she'd gotten rid of them. She glanced at Jagger, her expression softening as she took in his deer-in-headlights look. Sweetheart, are these yours? The gentleness in her voice broke something inside Jagger. Tears welled up in his eyes as he nodded, unable to form words. To his surprise, Aunt Marie simply nodded, as if confirming a long-held suspicion. I had a feeling, she said softly, reaching out to squeeze his shoulder. It's okay, Jagger. You're safe with me. Those simple words of acceptance were like a key unlocking a door Jagger had kept tightly shut for years. The story came pouring out. How he'd always felt different. How putting on heels made him feel like his true self. How terrified he was of anyone finding out. Aunt Marie listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or offering a supportive squeeze of his hand. When Jagger finally fell silent, she smiled and said, Well, if you're going to wear Louboutins, you should at least know how to walk in them properly. And just like that, a new chapter in Jagger's life began. Over the next few weeks, Aunt Marie became his confidant and mentor. She extended her visit, citing a need for a longer vacation, but Jagger knew it was for his benefit. Their first lesson took place on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Jagger's parents had gone out for the day, leaving them alone in the house. Aunt Marie had Jagger put on the red stilettos, then stood back to assess. All right, darling, first things first. Posture is everything, she instructed, demonstrating by standing tall and pulling her shoulders back. Imagine a string pulling you up from the crown of your head. Jagger mimicked her stance, feeling awkward and ungainly, but Aunt Marie's encouraging smile bolstered his confidence. Now, when you walk, lead with your hips, not your feet, she continued. It's a subtle sway, like this. She glided across the room, her movements fluid and graceful. Jagger took a tentative step, wobbling slightly. Aunt Marie was there in an instant, steadying him with a gentle hand. That's it, sweetheart. Nice and slow. Heel to toe, heel to toe. As the afternoon wore on, Jagger began to feel more comfortable. The initial awkwardness gave way to a growing sense of rightness, as if he was finally stepping into a role he was born to play. You're a natural, Aunt Marie praised, beaming with pride. Now, let's talk about coordinating outfits. A good heel can elevate any look, but it's all about balance. She disappeared into the guest room, returning with a floral dress in soft pastels. This was one of my favorites back in the day, she said, holding it up against Jagger. I think it would suit you beautifully. Jagger's eyes widened. I've never worn a dress before, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Aunt Marie's expression softened.
There's no pressure, darling. We'll go at your pace. But if you want to try, I'm here to help. With trembling hands, Jagger took the dress. He retreated to the bathroom to change, his heart pounding. As he slipped the soft fabric over his head, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. The person staring back at him was different, softer, more authentic. When he emerged, Aunt Marie's eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart, she breathed. You look beautiful. In that moment, Jagger felt a shift. It was as if a puzzle piece he hadn't even known was missing had finally clicked into place. I don't think I want to be Jagger anymore, he said softly. I think I'm Maisie.
Aunt Marie's smile was radiant. Hello, Maisie, she said, pulling her into a warm embrace. It's wonderful to meet you. From that day forward, their Sunday afternoon sessions became a cherished ritual. Aunt Marie would bring out her collection of vintage designer shoes, each pair with its own story. She taught Maisie about different heel heights and how they affected posture and gait. Kitten heels are perfect for everyday wear, she explained one afternoon, helping Maisie slip on a pair of elegant black shoes. They give you height without sacrificing comfort. Maisie marveled at how something as simple as a change in heel height could alter her entire demeanor. With the kitten heels, she felt professional and poised. When she switched to a pair of sky-high platforms, she was transformed into a glamorous diva. As weeks turned into months, Maisie's confidence grew. Under Aunt Marie's guidance, she learned to coordinate floral dresses with various shoe styles, creating looks that ranged from casual chic to red carpet ready. Remember, darling, Aunt Marie would say, fashion is about expressing yourself. Don't be afraid to experiment. And experiment Maisie did. She discovered a love for vintage-inspired looks, often pairing Aunt Marie's hand-me-down dresses with modern accessories. Her favorite outfit quickly became a 1950s-style swing dress in pale blue, worn with the red Louboutin stilettos that had started it all. As Maisie's style evolved, so did her inner self. The more she embraced her true identity, the more she blossomed. Her brown hair, once kept short and unremarkable, was allowed to grow out. She learned to style it in soft waves that framed her face, enhancing her newfound femininity. One particularly memorable Sunday, Aunt Marie arrived with a mischievous glint in her eye. I have a surprise for you, she announced, producing a shoebox from her bag. Maisie opened it with trembling hands, gasping at the contents. Inside lay a pair of exquisite gold strappy sandals, their delicate straps adorned with tiny crystals that caught the light. These were the shoes I wore for my last runway show, Aunt Marie explained, her voice tinged with nostalgia. I've been saving them for a special occasion, and I can't think of anything more special than this. Tears welled up in Maisie's eyes as she carefully lifted the sandals from the box. Aunt Marie, I can't accept these, she protested weakly. Nonsense, Aunt Marie replied firmly. They belong to you now. Consider it a graduation present. As Maisie slipped on the sandals, she felt a surge of confidence unlike anything she'd experienced before. She stood tall, shoulders back, chin lifted, every inch the elegant woman Aunt Marie had helped her become. Now, Aunt Marie said, a twinkle in her eye. Let's see you work it. With a deep breath, Maisie began to walk. Her steps were sure and graceful, each movement a testament to the hours of practice and the unwavering support of her aunt. As she reached the end of the makeshift runway, really just the length of the living room, she turned with a flourish, striking a pose that would have made any supermodel proud. Aunt Marie burst into applause, her face beaming with pride. Brava, darling! Absolutely stunning! As the afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the room, Maisie felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She was no longer hiding, no longer pretending. She was simply herself, beautifully, authentically, Maisie. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been tears and frustrations, moments of doubt and fear. But with each step in her heels, each swish of a floral dress, Maisie had grown stronger, more confident in who she was meant to be.
You know,
Aunt Marie said softly, joining Maisie by the window, when I first saw those red stilettos in your closet, I had no idea we'd end up here. But I'm so glad we did. Maisie turned to her aunt, her eyes shining with gratitude. I don't know where I'd be without you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You didn't just teach me how to walk in heels. You taught me how to walk tall, how to be proud of who I am. Aunt Marie wrapped an arm around Maisie's shoulders, giving her a gentle squeeze. You did all the hard work, darling. I just gave you a little push in the right direction. As they stood there, bathed in the warm afternoon light, Maisie felt a sense of excitement for the future. She knew there would be challenges ahead, telling her parents, facing the world as her true self, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them. So, Aunt Marie said, a mischievous glint returning to her eye, shall we plan your debut? Maisie's heart skipped a beat. The idea of going out in public as her true self was both thrilling and terrifying, but as she looked down at the golden sandals adorning her feet, she felt a surge of courage. Yes, she said, her voice steady and sure. I think it's time. Over the next few weeks, Aunt Marie helped Maisie prepare for her first public outing as herself. They carefully curated an outfit that was both stylish and comfortable, a knee-length floral dress in soft pastels, paired with the red Louboutin stilettos that had become Maisie's signature.
Remember,
Aunt Marie advised as they stood before the full-length mirror, making final adjustments. Confidence is your best accessory. Stand tall, smile, and the world will smile back. The day of Maisie's debut dawned bright and clear. She had chosen a local art gallery opening for her first outing, figuring the eclectic crowd would be more accepting. As she and Aunt Marie approached the gallery, Maisie's nerves threatened to overwhelm her.
Deep breaths, darling,
Aunt Marie murmured, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. You've got this. With a final adjustment of her brown hair, which she had styled in elegant waves, Maisie stepped into the gallery. For a moment, she felt every eye turn to her, and her breath caught in her throat. But then, as quickly as it had come, the moment passed. People returned to their conversations, their art appreciation, and Maisie felt herself relax. As they moved through the gallery, Maisie found herself drawn into discussions about the artwork. Her natural intelligence and wit, which had often been overshadowed by her internal struggles, now shone through. She bantered with artists, debated techniques with critics, and even caught the eye of a handsome curator who seemed particularly interested in her opinions on modern expressionism. Throughout the evening, Maisie was acutely aware of the click of her heels on the polished gallery floor, the swish of her dress as she moved. But instead of making her self-conscious, these sounds now filled her with a sense of pride. This was who she was meant to be. As the night drew to a close, Aunt Marie and Maisie made their way back home, both practically glowing with excitement. You were magnificent, Aunt Marie gushed as they kicked off their heels in the living room. Did you see how that curator was looking at you? I think someone has an admirer. Maisie blushed, tucking a strand of brown hair behind her ear. It was incredible, she admitted. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was truly myself, and people accepted me just as I am. Aunt Marie's eyes softened. Of course they did, darling, because the real you is absolutely wonderful. As they sat on the couch, Recounting the highlights of the evening, Maisie felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She turned to her aunt, tears glistening in her eyes.
"Aunt Marie,"
she began, her voice thick with emotion.
"I don't know how to thank you. You've given me so much more than just fashion advice or walking lessons. You've given me the courage to be myself."
Aunt Marie pulled her into a tight hug.
"Oh, sweetheart,"
she murmured, her own voice wavering.
"You've always had that courage inside you. I just helped you find it."
As they pulled apart, Maisie wiped her eyes, careful not to smudge her carefully applied makeup.
"So,"
she said, a hint of mischief creeping into her voice.
"What's next on the agenda, oh wise fashion guru?"
Aunt Marie laughed, her eyes twinkling. "Well, I think it's high time we tackled the world of makeup. Can't have you going out with mascara tracks down your cheeks, can we?" And so, a new chapter in Maisie's journey began. Each Sunday afternoon became a masterclass in the art of makeup application. Aunt Marie taught her the importance of a good skincare routine, how to apply foundation for a flawless finish, and the transformative power of the perfect lipstick. "Remember," Aunt Marie would say as she demonstrated the proper way to apply eyeliner, "makeup is meant to enhance your natural beauty, not mask it. Less is often more." Maisie absorbed every lesson with enthusiasm, practicing diligently throughout the week. She discovered a talent for creating subtle, elegant looks that complemented her newfound style perfectly. Her brown eyes, once unremarkable, now sparkled with confidence, enhanced by carefully applied mascara and a touch of shimmer on her lids. As Maisie's skills grew, so did her wardrobe. Aunt Marie introduced her to the world of online shopping, helping her select pieces that would work with her existing collection. They spent hours poring over fashion blogs and style guides, discussing the merits of different cuts and fabrics. "Fashion is about more than just looking good," Aunt Marie explained one afternoon as they scrolled through pages of dresses. "It's about how the clothes make you feel. When you put on an outfit that truly resonates with you, it's like putting on armor. It gives you strength." Maisie nodded, understanding exactly what her aunt meant. She thought back to that first night at the art gallery, how the simple act of wearing a beautiful dress and heels had given her the courage to face the world as her true self. As the weeks turned into months, Maisie's transformation continued. She grew more comfortable in her own skin, more confident in her choices. Her brown hair, now grown past her shoulders, became a point of pride. She experimented with different styles, sleek ponytails, messy buns, intricate braids, each one a new way to express herself. One Sunday, as they were putting the finishing touches on a particularly glamorous makeup look, Aunt Marie broached a subject they had both been avoiding.
"Maisie, darling,"
she began, her tone gentle but serious. "Have you given any thought to telling your parents?" Maisie's hand, in the middle of applying a coat of mascara, froze. She met her aunt's eyes in the mirror, fear flickering across her face.
I don't know if I'm ready,"
she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Aunt Marie nodded understanding. "It's a big step," she agreed. "But you can't keep living a double life forever. Your parents love you, Maisie. They might need time to adjust, but I believe they'll accept you." Deep down, Maisie knew her aunt was right. The strain of hiding her true self from her parents was taking its toll. She longed for the day when she could be Maisie all the time, not just during stolen moments and secret outings. "You're right," she said finally, squaring her shoulders. "It's time. We'll Will you be there with me when I tell them? Aunt Marie's face softened with affection. Of course, darling. Every step of the way. They spent the next week preparing. Maisie carefully chose her outfit, a simple, elegant blue dress that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes, paired with modest kitten heels. She wanted to look like herself, but not overwhelm her parents with too dramatic a change. The morning of the big reveal, Maisie stood before her mirror, taking deep, calming breaths. Her brown hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup subtle but flawless. She looked every inch the confident, beautiful woman she had become. Ready? Aunt Marie asked softly, appearing in the doorway. Maisie nodded, smoothing down her dress one last time. As I'll ever be. They made their way downstairs, where Maisie's parents were waiting in the living room, curiosity and concern evident on their faces. As Maisie entered the room, their eyes widened in shock. Mom, Dad, Maisie began, her voice trembling slightly but growing stronger with each word. There's something I need to tell you. I'm not Jagger. I'm Maisie. This is who I truly am. What followed was an emotional conversation filled with tears, questions, and ultimately, love. While her parents were initially shocked and confused, they listened as Maisie poured out her heart, explaining the journey she had been on. Aunt Marie stood by her side, offering support and additional explanations when needed. As the conversation progressed, Maisie could see understanding dawning in her parents' eyes. Oh, honey, her mother finally said, pulling Maisie into a tight embrace. We love you, no matter what. We just want you to be happy. Her father, always a man of few words, simply nodded, his eyes suspiciously moist. You'll always be our child, he said gruffly. Jagger or Maisie, it doesn't matter. We're here for you. As the tension in the room dissipated, replaced by a sense of relief and newfound understanding, Maisie felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She was finally free to be herself, wholly and completely. In the weeks that followed, there were adjustments to be made. Her parents had questions, concerns to be addressed, but with patience, love, and the unwavering support of Aunt Marie, they navigated this new reality together. Maisie's final Sunday afternoon lesson with Aunt Marie took on a bittersweet tone. They both knew it was time for Aunt Marie to return home, her extended vacation having stretched far beyond its original scope. You don't need me anymore, darling, Aunt Marie said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You've blossomed into the beautiful, confident woman you were always meant to be. Maisie shook her head, pulling her aunt into a tight hug. I'll always need you, she insisted. You're not just my fashion guru or my mentor. You're family. As they parted, Aunt Marie pressed a small box into Maisie's hands. One last gift, she said with a wink. Inside, Maisie found a delicate silver necklace with a small shoe charm. To remind you of where this journey began, Aunt Marie explained, and to remind you that you have the strength to walk any path you choose. Maisie fingered the charm, tears welling in her eyes. I'll treasure it always, she promised. As they said their goodbyes, Maisie knew this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. She had the tools, the confidence, and the support to continue her journey, and she knew, without a doubt, that whenever she needed her, Aunt Marie was just a phone call away. Standing in her room that evening, Maisie looked at herself in the mirror. The person who looked back at her was a far cry from the scared, confused Jagger of months past. Her brown hair framed a face that radiated confidence and joy. The blue dress hugged curves she had once tried to hide, and the silver necklace glinted at her throat, a constant reminder of how far she had come. With a smile, Maisie slipped on her favorite red stilettos. She had a whole world waiting for her, and she was ready to step into it, one perfectly poised step at a time.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!